On June 18, 2014, Stockton police posted Jeremy Meeks' mugshot after an anti-gang operation. He was a convicted felon facing weapons allegations with a record that already stretched across years.
My name is Jeremy Meeks, but you might know me from my mugshot. Life is crazy.
That should have been the story. Instead, strangers focused on his eyes, cheekbones, tattoos, and skin. The comment section turned a police post into a casting call before any agency had seen him walk, pose, or speak. Within days, the image had spread far beyond Stockton. Agents noticed. Fashion noticed after that. Meeks was still dealing with the criminal case attached to the photo, yet the photo was already building a future for him. A camera meant for booking created the first image of a career no agency had planned. A booking photo has one practical job. It identifies a person for the legal system. It is taken quickly, under control, with no interest in charm, timing, or presentation. The image is meant to place a person inside a record.
A lot of people ask me what was I thinking about in that moment. To be honest, I wasn't going to be able to pick my son up from school, fall asleep with him every night, all that was over.
Stockton police posted Jeremy Meeks' photo beside other booking images from the same enforcement operation. On the department page, it belonged to a crime update. Online, it started pulling a different kind of attention almost immediately. Commenters focused on his blue eyes, cheekbones, skin, and tattoos. The charges were visible, yet the conversation kept drifting toward his face. That reaction gave the photo a strange second life. People looked at it longer than they usually look at a mugshot. They shared it in places far outside Stockton. They joked, argued, flirted, defended him, and treated the image like something that belonged in entertainment news instead of a police update. The photo itself was plain. No stylist prepared him. No photographer shaped the mood. No agency chose the angle.
And they said, Meeks. I walked all the way down to visit him. It was one of my really good friends. He was just like, man, you went viral.
The police caption and the blank booking photo setup stayed in the frame. That made the reaction even harder to ignore because the audience had created the glamour on its own. The other booking photos from the same post stayed closer to the purpose of the update. Meeks' image separated from them because strangers gave it attention that had nothing to do with the usual crime post response. The more people reacted, the further the photo traveled. That spread changed the way people saw him before anyone in fashion had met him. Editors noticed the traffic around the image. Managers noticed the same thing. The internet had already shown that people wanted to look at him, talk about him, and follow whatever happened next. Fashion coverage later kept both identities attached. Meeks could be introduced as a model, but the mugshot never disappeared for long. His career would be framed as a rare second chance, though the image that opened the door came from a system meant to document an arrest. Jeremy Ray Meeks was born in Tacoma, Washington in 1984. His childhood moved across Washington and California, with time in places like Spokane, Vacaville, and later Stockton. The places changed, but the instability followed. Poverty was part of it. Family trouble was part of it. So were neighborhoods where gangs were close enough to shape the choices around him. By the time Meeks was a teenager, the path in front of him already looked narrow. He was still young when trouble with the law became part of his life. Before the mugshot, before the nickname, before fashion editors knew his face, his name had already appeared in court records. The story people would later tell as a strange rise into modeling had years of damage behind it. His record reached back to 2002, when a theft-related felony in California led to prison time while he was still young. That conviction became one of the first serious marks attached to him. It also set the pattern for the years that followed, where each new case made it harder for him to move away from the past. The problems continued outside California. In Spokane, court coverage later listed a theft conviction in 2005 and a forgery conviction in 2007. Those cases brought shorter jail time than the earlier California sentence, but they still added weight to his record. By his late 20s, Meeks was already carrying the kind of history that follows a person into every job application, background check, and police encounter. That is the part fame can blur. The mugshot made everything look sudden, but it came after prison, courtrooms, and years of legal trouble. For most people, a record like that follows job applications, housing, and every background check. Meeks was moving toward that same kind of future before the photo spread beyond Stockton. What made his case different was who saw him next. The booking image did not clear his record or soften the charges. It placed his face in front of an audience that reacted before it understood the history behind him. By the 2014 arrest, he was already a convicted felon, not a blank slate. By 2014, Stockton was under pressure. Shootings, robberies, and gang-related crime had kept the city on edge, and local law enforcement was trying to push back through Operation Ceasefire. The program brought police, prosecutors, and community groups into the same effort, with a focus on people believed to be connected to violence in the city. Jeremy Meeks was arrested that morning. Officers stopped a vehicle he was driving after watching a group of men leave a house connected to the operation. Police listed a loaded .45 caliber handgun, extended magazines, and ammunition as part of the case. From the start, the arrest carried the weight of a serious weapons matter, especially because Meeks was already a convicted felon. The gang connection became dollars, which made the case look serious before the online reaction became the larger story. Usually, an arrest like that stays local. The names appear in a department update, the booking photos sit beside the charges, and the cases move through court. Meeks's case broke that pattern because the photo kept moving. The court case gave the story its weight. The online reaction gave it a future no one in the operation had planned. Stockton police posted the booking photos from the operation on Facebook the same day as the arrests. The page was meant for local updates, crime alerts, and community notices. Most posts stayed within that world. Meeks's photo moved beyond it almost immediately. The numbers climbed fast. Within a day, the post had tens of thousands of reactions. By that Friday, coverage placed it above 68,000 likes and more than 19,000 comments. By the weekend, the count had climbed again. Other men from the same operation appeared in the update, but the crowd kept returning to Meeks. His photo became the center of the post. The comment section changed the direction of the story. People talked about his eyes, cheekbones, tattoos, and face shape. Some joked about paying bail. Some wrote as if the post had landed on a dating page by mistake. The charges were still listed beside his name, but the conversation underneath the photo was moving somewhere else. That kind of reaction made the image easy for digital outlets to pick up. BuzzFeed and other sites pushed it past Stockton and into a much larger audience. Social media gave him the nickname that followed him for years, the Hot Felon. It was blunt, easy to repeat, and built for headlines. It kept the criminal record inside the joke, while turning the mugshot into something people could share without thinking too hard about the case behind it. The nickname made everything feel lighter than it was. Meeks was in custody. The arrest came from a serious enforcement operation. The case involved firearm allegations and a prior felony record. Still, the phrase "hot felon" made the story sound like internet gossip. It gave viewers a way to talk about him without sitting too long with the reason his photo existed in the first place. That distance made the reaction easier. Most people sharing the image were far from Stockton, and far from the violence Operation Ceasefire was meant to answer. He was hearing pieces of it from people who could see what the rest of the world was saying. A local news station interviewed him from jail while the attention was still growing. He sat behind glass wearing jail clothing with a criminal case still ahead of him. The questions were unusual for someone in that position. Reporters were asking about fame, modeling, and the way strangers were reacting to his face. His wife had told him the photo was everywhere, and he seemed caught off guard by how big it had become. When he spoke, he tried to pull the story back toward himself. "I just want them to know that this is really not me," he said. "I'm not some kingpin." He also pushed back against the gang framing, saying he had not done anything gang-related. It was one of the first times people heard him answer the image directly. Until then, most of the conversation had happened without him. Strangers had already given him a nickname. They had already joked about bail, argued over the charges, and treated his mugshot like entertainment. Meeks was sitting in jail while people outside were building a version of him from one photo. The interview helped, but the photo still moved faster. A mugshot was easier to pass around than a jail interview, and many viewers had already chosen the part of the story they wanted. Meeks could deny the gang label and show surprise at the attention, but the image kept doing most of the talking. By then, people were already asking whether the man in jail could become a model before the case itself had been resolved. The business interest came almost as quickly as the attention. In July 2014, only weeks after the arrest, Hollywood manager Gina Rodriguez became part of the story. She spoke about possible endorsements, television work, and ways the attention around Meeks could turn into something larger. The language around him started changing while he was still behind bars. That shift was unusual because Meeks had not worked as a model yet. He had no runway history. He had no campaign behind him. He had not been shaped by an agency or tested in front of fashion clients. What he had was public attention, and that was already enough for people in entertainment to start making calls. The interest around him was practical. His face had traveled, his name had traveled with it. People were clicking, commenting, and asking what would happen next. In entertainment, that kind of reaction has value before a person has proven anything else. Meeks had become recognizable before anyone had built a career around him. By early 2015, Jim Jordan of White Cross Management became the main name tied to his future in fashion. Jordan had worked in photography and talent management, and he saw more than a viral joke in the attention around Meeks. White Cross Management confirmed a contract while Meeks was still incarcerated. That timing gave the story its strange pull. Most people serving time leave prison with fewer options than they had before. Meeks had a manager waiting. He had people discussing bookings. He had a public image that was already known far beyond Stockton. His sentence was still part of his present, but the next stage of his life was already being planned. The early plans sounded bigger than a single modeling job. There was talk of fashion work, endorsements, international bookings, and television possibilities. Some of it was ambition, some of it was publicity. Still, the fact that those conversations were happening at all showed how far the attention had moved. Meeks had not walked into the industry through the normal door, but people inside the industry were already making space for him. Fashion has always liked a discovery story. A person gets noticed in an ordinary place, signs with the right people, and becomes a new face. Meeks's version had a harsher beginning. The first image that made people talk came from a booking process. By the time managers entered, the public had already done the first round of promotion for him. That made him both valuable and difficult to package. The attention was real, but so was the criminal case. The face could sell. The backstory could pull headlines. The record could also make every opportunity feel uncomfortable. Anyone working with him had to know that the same thing drawing interest would also keep raising questions. The career kept moving because attention often moves faster than discomfort. His team could shape the image, choose better photos, build a portfolio, and place him in fashion spaces. They could not remove where the attention started. Every opportunity came with that origin attached, and Meeks's future in modeling was being built while the public still knew him first from a mugshot. The federal case reached its result in February 2015. Meeks pleaded guilty to one count of being a felon in possession of a firearm. U.S. District Judge Troy Nunley sentenced him to 27 months in federal prison and ordered him to complete a 500-hour substance abuse treatment program through the Bureau of Prisons. The conviction gave the case a clear legal ending. The arrest had come with heavier public language around weapons, gang enforcement, and a citywide sweep. In court, the charge that carried through was specific. A convicted felon had been connected to a firearm. That was the charge that sent him to federal prison. Meeks served his sentence at Mendota Federal Correctional Institution in California. Inside, his life was controlled by the routine of prison. Outside, his name kept moving through entertainment blogs, fashion sites, and old social media posts. The mugshot remained the image people used when they talked about him, even while he was no longer part of the public conversation in any active way. That made his prison sentence unusual from the outside. Most people serving time disappear from public attention until they are released, and many return to a life that is harder than the one they left. Meeks had a different kind of pressure waiting for him. The conviction was still real. The sentence was still real. But the attention around his face had created a future that was already being discussed before he could step into it. While he was incarcerated, managers and fashion people were still speaking about what might happen after his release. That would be rare for almost anyone with a felony record. A prison sentence usually makes employers hesitate. It usually makes a person harder to place, harder to insure, harder to trust, and harder to sell to the public. Meeks was carrying all of that, but he also had name recognition most new models never get. The attention did not remove the damage of the conviction. It did change the way people waited for him. He was no longer only a man serving time on a weapons conviction. To some outlets, he had become a future model who happened to be unavailable until the sentence ended. That framing followed him through the rest of his time in custody. By the time his release approached, the next step had already been sketched out. A management deal existed. Media interest was still there. Fashion had a reason to see whether the face from the mugshot could work in a real campaign or on a runway. Meeks was leaving prison with a record behind him, but also with an opening waiting on the other side. Jeremy Meeks left federal custody on March 8, 2016. Freedom did not arrive all at once. He still had a transitional housing period to get through, and the life waiting for him outside prison was already moving before he could fully step into it. Once he was able to work, the change happened quickly. In June 2016, a polished modeling headshot appeared online. It was the first real sign that the plan around him was no longer only talk. He was no longer being shown through a police camera. He was being photographed with styling, control, and the kind of framing used for someone clients might actually book. The headshot gave people a cleaner version of what agencies and managers had been seeing since the mugshot first spread. The face that made strangers stop scrolling could also work in a fashion setting. Now the question was whether the industry would treat him as a one-time curiosity or give him real jobs after the first round of attention faded. His record still followed him. In 2017, he traveled to the United Kingdom for work tied to appearances and shoots, but he was refused entry and sent back to the United States. The moment was a reminder that fame had limits. A name, a manager, and public interest could open some doors, but a conviction could still close others without much warning. His runway debut came in February 2017 at Philipp Plein's New York Fashion Week show, staged at the New York Public Library. That booking placed him in front of editors, photographers, celebrities, and buyers in a way no viral headline could. It was the first time the public saw whether the man from the mugshot could actually stand inside a major fashion event and hold attention there. He did. The coverage still leaned on the backstory because that was the reason many people clicked in the first place. But the job itself was real. Meeks was no longer only a viral photo being discussed from prison. He was walking a runway, wearing designer clothes, and being photographed beside people who had spent years building careers in that world. More fashion work followed. Philipp Plein used celebrity and spectacle as part of the brand's image, so Meeks fit into that world almost too easily. He brought attention before he even stepped onto the runway. He also appeared in a Carolina Limca sunglasses campaign with Bar Raffaelli, which pushed him further into the space between fashion, celebrity, and tabloid interest. The bookings kept coming. He appeared in fashion editorials and magazine features, including Scene. He walked again for Philipp Plein in Europe. In February 2018, he appeared in Tommy Hilfiger's Milan presentation, connected to Gigi Hadid's collaboration with the brand. Those jobs helped move him past the first burst of curiosity and into a more stable place as a working model. That did not mean the old image disappeared. It stayed close to every headline. Editors could write about a campaign, a runway show, or a new appearance, and the mugshot would still return somewhere in the coverage. It was too useful to leave out. It explained why people knew him before the modeling career had enough time to explain itself. Meeks' new career grew in that tension. He had access many new models never get, but he also carried an origin story most brands would usually avoid. He could stand in designer clothes at Fashion Week, but the first photo people remembered came from an arrest. The industry helped turn that attention into work, and Meeks kept taking the openings as they came. After the runway, Meeks' name moved into a wider celebrity world. In 2017, photos of him with Chloe Green spread through tabloids. Green was the daughter of Sir Philip Green, the retail billionaire long linked to Topshop. Suddenly, Meeks was being photographed around yachts, luxury trips, and a social circle far away from the Stockton police post that had first made people notice him. The relationship brought another wave of attention because Meeks was still legally married to Melissa Meeks when it became public. He filed for separation that summer, and the divorce was finalized in June 2018. He and Chloe Green welcomed a son, Jaden, in May 2018. The tabloids covered each step closely because the relationship made his rise look even more dramatic. Fashion had already given Meeks a second public life, but the Chloe Green relationship pushed him beyond runway coverage. He was no longer being written about only as the model who came from a mugshot. He was now part of celebrity gossip, photographed beside inherited wealth, and watched by outlets that cared as much about his private life as his work. That attention opened more lanes for him. Fashion could use the face. Fragrance brands could use the name. Film roles could use the backstory. Meeks had become recognizable enough that each new project carried part of the old attention with it, even when the project had nothing to do with the arrest. His commercial work continued to grow. He appeared in campaigns, magazine features, and fragrance work, including a role with Gisada Switzerland's Ambassador fragrance line in 2019. That same year, the German company fashion concept GmbH announced a $15 million partnership tied to a fashion line under his name. That number gave the story another headline, but it needs to stay in its place. It was an announced partnership value, not a confirmed amount of money Meeks personally earned. Still, the announcement showed how far his public image had traveled. A man first known from a booking photo was now being attached to fashion deals with luxury language around them. Screen work followed too. Meeks appeared in Trigger in 2020 and Secret Society in 2021. Later, his autobiography, Model Citizen, gave him a chance to tell the story in his own order, instead of having it told through captions, paparazzi shots, and quick headlines. By then, the mugshot was still with him. It could limit how people saw him, and it could still bring attention to almost anything he did. His career had stretched across fashion, tabloids, fragrance, film, and publishing, but the starting point never really moved. Every new chapter still traced back to the image that made the world look at him in the first place. Jeremy Meeks' story can look simple from a distance. Some people see a second chance. Some see a man rewarded for attention that came from an arrest. Both reactions make sense, but neither one is enough on its own. Before the fame, he had a real criminal record. He was arrested during an anti-gang enforcement operation in Stockton. He was later convicted in federal court of being a felon in possession of a firearm and sentenced to prison. That part of the story cannot be pushed aside just because the ending became unusual. What happened after prison was unusual too. He signed with management while he was still incarcerated. He left federal custody in 2016. Soon after, professional photos appeared. Then came fashion shows, campaigns, magazine features, fragrance work, film roles, tabloid attention, business announcements, and eventually a memoir. The order is what makes it hard to ignore. The arrest created the image. The internet gave the image an audience. Fashion saw the audience and moved in. Meeks did not enter the industry through the normal route. His first widely known photo came from a booking process, and the public reacted before any agency had a chance to build the story around him. For some people, that looks like a man taking the one opening life gave him. For others, it looks like an industry turning a criminal case into something stylish enough to sell. Meeks kept working after prison, and that effort is part of the story. So is the fact that most people with felony records never receive that kind of attention, no matter how hard they try to rebuild. Years later, the mugshot still follows his name. It helped him become visible, but it also fixed the beginning of his public life in one image. He built a second act from it, and fashion helped turn that attention into work. The strange part is still where it all began, inside a booking photo that was supposed to mark an arrest, not open a career.